the boy has to die so the man can live. But again, I had to let that version of me die so that the current me, the more evolved, healthier, smarter, wiser version of me could live. I myself wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I wasn't respecting myself. I didn't have a lot of love for myself. I didn't appreciate myself. And so I tried to seek it through other people. I tried to seek that through my friends. Oh, do they think I'm like cool? Do they think I'm smart? Like, do they think I'm this or that? And now what I realized as I was sitting there in the Discord was that I don't care about that shit anymore. Isolation is important. It's important to have these periods of time where you just kind of go ghost and you focus on yourself and face your demons and cast them out. We don't want to be controlled by these vices anymore. We don't want to be seeking external validation anymore. We want to live as our highest self, as our best version, and embody that every single day. But yeah, the other day I was hanging out with my friends on Discord. A bunch of us just kind of hopped into the group chat, and we hadn't spoken to each other in a while. Like, some of them I hadn't seen for months, some of them I hadn't seen for years. And it was great to hear from everyone. It's always good to hear from my brothers and sisters. We're kind of like that friend group where it's like we could not talk to each other for a hell of a long time. Yet every time we do, it's like we just talked to each other yesterday. Like, we just pick up right where we left off. And I think that's a sign of like a really healthy friendship, a really healthy relationship. It's like a family member, a cousin that you haven't seen for a while, but then you just keep going like it's nothing, even though you haven't seen each other for multiple years sometimes. But as we're sitting there talking, I just kind of take a step back and I'm just kind of feeling the group dynamics and stuff. And I just kind of noticed that we've all changed a little. I mean, yeah, we graduated like 5 years ago from college. And so, of course, we've all grown. I'm not saying we've changed in a bad way. I'm saying it's a good thing. But, looking at myself, I was just thinking, like, why does this feel a little different than usual? Why does this feel a little different than the other times that we've hung out in the past? I realized that in the past, I was maybe subconsciously seeking all of their approval, all of their respect, all of their validation. I was kind of seeking that external validation because I myself wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I wasn't respecting myself. I didn't have a lot of love for myself. I didn't appreciate myself. And so I tried to seek it through other people. I tried to seek that through my friends. Oh, do they think I'm like cool? Do they think I'm smart? Like, do they think I'm this or that? And now what I realized as I was sitting there in the Discord was that I don't care about that shit anymore. But what I realized is that I don't care about that anymore. Like, I have so much love and respect for myself now that I've developed over time that it doesn't matter what other people think of me. Even those people that I'm closest to, it's like I was sitting there and I'm like, wow, I'm enjoying my time with my friends, but I'm also not attached to them, or I'm not attached to their opinions. Like, it doesn't really matter to me what they think of me. And ironically, over the years, I've gained a lot more respect from them. I feel like I've gained a lot more of that validation, quote unquote, now that I don't care about it anymore. And I think a big reason for that was being isolated for a while, being away from everyone, right? You graduate and then we all have to move back. We graduated during COVID. So we had this situation where we're living together for like multiple years. We're seeing each other every day. And then we immediately have to go back to where we live, stay inside, right? This pandemic going on. And it's just a complete 180. It's just a complete shift from everything that was happening. And it was really sad. It was really difficult because you go from this situation where you're just having fun every day, you're enjoying spending time with people you care about, and now all of a sudden you're all by yourself. You're in like a boring city, right? You're in a boring place. You're like, oh my God, I have to stay inside every day. All my friends are in a different city. And I think I started to feel down. I think I started to feel depressed. I think I was just kind of angry, in general. I was angry at life. I was angry at the universe, And I think mentally, the first few years after graduating college, I spent those first few years just stuck in college. Like, I couldn't embrace the present moment. I couldn't embrace the new reality. I was still stuck in the past, right? I was still stuck wanting things to be the way they always were, or the way they used to be. and I couldn't move on. I couldn't enjoy my life. I couldn't be happy. You know, that's how you get into a state of depression and sadness and just not enjoying your life, because you're not enjoying the present moment. The present moment is all you can enjoy, because that's all you can experience. But having this time to reconnect, it was like the universe held up a mirror to my face and say, no, look how much you've grown. Look how much you've moved beyond the past. Look how much you don't care about the past anymore. Like, yeah, we can acknowledge that we had great times and great memories in the past, but at the same time, that's in the past. We don't want to be stuck there. Like, I want to create new memories now. I want to be happy now and create even better experiences now in the present moment. It's like that mirror was being held up to me, and it showed me just how much love and respect I've developed for myself through all the inner work, all the things that I talk about on this channel. And I've gotten to a point where nobody's absence bothers me. You know, I love myself so much that I don't need anyone else's approval. I don't need anyone else's validation. And that was a very like freeing thought, but it was different, you know, because I'm not used to that. And I think a lot of us are not used to that. I think a lot of us constantly seek that validation. And of course, there's a balance to be had, right? Because friendship is important and it's an amazing thing. And we're social creatures, we're human beings. We need to interact with each other. We need to like be in community. We're not meant to just live completely by ourselves. But it's also important to have certain periods of time when you are isolated, when you are by yourself, because that forces us to face our demons. It forces us to face the stillness, the quietness, the discomfort, maybe the parts of ourselves that we were avoiding or we were running away from. And sometimes we can use friendship and hanging out with people as escapism. You know, if you're always constantly surrounded by other people, you never really have to focus on yourself. You never really have to focus on your own issues or what's going on in your own life. So for me, I would constantly get on Discord. I would constantly, like right after graduating, I would constantly be getting on Discord. I would constantly be just wanting to hang out and stuff, because I was feeling this depression, because I was feeling this anxiety, right? I wasn't happy with where my life was the first few years after graduating. And yeah, I was trying to change, and like I was still in the gym, and I was still trying to like start these different businesses and just figure out what I wanted to do in my life. But this was, you know, still during COVID as well, so everything was locked down and you're just more like depressed and everything. And you know, those first few years after COVID, everything slowly opening back up. It was really like just tough transition, you know, from going from hanging out with everyone for the past 4 years to now having to be alone. And I honestly think because of all the lockdown and all the being away from everyone, just that instant transition, I think I fell into like a depression for like 2.5 years. And so by constantly wanting to get online and hang out, I was using that as a form of escapism, you know, so I didn't have to focus on myself. I didn't have to focus on those issues. I could just be like, oh, let's just hang out and like, you know, get distracted. Let's like get high or something, you know. And it's like, it was all just forms of escapism, you know, so I didn't have to deal with those problems. Right, all the trials and tribulations of young adult life, you know, trying to figure out your love life, your work life, just trying to get your bearings as an adult and all the new responsibilities that you have. Growing up, we're in school our whole lives, and then everything is structured for us, everything's planned out for us, and then you get to college, and it's like in college you have the most freedom combined with the least amount of responsibility. Like, you're never gonna have that much freedom with that little responsibility like you do in college. Because like, yeah, technically as an adult you can technically have more freedom because now you have your own money and you can set your own schedule and do your own things, but you have a lot more responsibilities. You have work, you have bills, you might have a spouse, you might have kids, you know, there's all these other factors at play. And so you can't just, you know, wake up every day, hang out with your whole big ass group of friends and like just dick around all day, you know. So it's tough when you're just ripped immediately away from that, you know, without warning almost. And that's a lot of pressure that you feel. And that's where the escapism often comes in. Like, a lot of us feel like we can't handle that pressure, so we want to escape from it in various ways. But what's that old saying? Diamonds form under pressure. You know, diamonds form under pressure. So I think that's exactly what happened, because that isolation, even though it was tough, it forced me to grow. It forced me to glow up. It forced me to face my emotional traumas. It forced me to face my childhood traumas, my insecurities. Why was I feeling so anxious? Why was I feeling the need for so much external validation? You know, it forced me to face my addictions and bad habits, whether it was sugar, whether it was porn, whether it was weed. You know, why am I doing all these things? They're not making me feel good.
why am I still indulging in it? I had to face those instead of just ignoring those issues. What about my physical health? There's still weight that I wanted to lose. There's still progress I want to make in the gym. It forced me to face that instead of just ignoring it and being lazy, especially post-COVID when, everyone gained a bunch of weight. Because for me, I was stuck in a little apartment with a few other people, a few other family members, so there was no room to do at-home exercises. And so all of that work was like healing your inner child, essentially, healing your younger self, because I used to think about the past all the time. I basically used to live in the past. All my energy, all my focus, all my attention was just in the past. And that stopped me from living my best life right now. I always talk about we want to be our best version and live our best life. But you can't do that if you're in the past. You can only live your best life right now. And it's like it wasn't until I started letting go of the past and not being so attached to it, acknowledging it for all the good times that we had and enjoying that, but not being attached to it, not needing to constantly live in that. Once I had that level of detachment to all those memories, to my friends, to all these people, and not needing anything external, that's when I could start making these videos with confidence. That's when I could start, really making progress in the gym and really making progress with the weight loss, because I can now finally choose new habits. I can now finally choose new ways of living, choosing new routines, and choosing to be a better version of myself, a different version of myself than the one I was in the past. When you're living in the past, I was still sending that message. You're still sending that message that you're to the universe, to your body, that you're that old version of you. I was still telling myself subconsciously, by constantly living in the past, subconsciously, I was telling myself that I'm still the version of me that's overweight. I'm still the version of me that's socially anxious. I'm still the version of me that's addicted to fast food and sugar and porn and all these other vices. And that was hard to let go of, because I had to literally let go of my past self. I had to let that version of me die, essentially. I had to forgive that version of myself, that younger version, because he didn't know any better. He was just making all these mistakes and he was trying his best to figure things out. But again, I had to let that version of me die so that the current me, the more evolved, healthier, smarter, wiser version of me could live. It's like, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so Mike Tomlin is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and one thing he always tells his players, he says, the boy has to die so the man can live. Or if you're a woman, the girl has to die so the woman can live. It's the same principle, where your old version, the immature, not so wise version of you, you need to let that go. It needs to figuratively die so that the new you can emerge, just like a caterpillar going into the cocoon, right? And then it's like in this phase where it's just stuck and it's inside the cocoon, but then eventually it breaks out and becomes a new version and a beautiful butterfly. It evolves. Or like in Pokemon, you start with like the Charmander, and then you go to Charmeleon, and then Charizard. It keeps evolving. It's like the same thing, but like better versions of the same thing. I never actually played Pokemon growing up, so I don't know if that's the right order. But yeah, the point is, isolation is important. It's important to have these periods of time where you just kind of go ghost, like Danny Phantom, and you focus on yourself and face your demons and cast them out. We don't want to be controlled by these vices anymore. We don't want to be seeking external validation anymore. We want to live as our highest self, as our best version, and embody that every single day through each and every action, thought, word that we choose to align with. Every single day, every single morning, in the present moment, we want to be the best versions that we can be. But we can't do that till we let go of the past, let go of the way things used to be, and embrace reality, embrace the present moment, embrace how things are right here, right now.